Hi, my name is Miranda Heinrich, and this is my AEP 855 Educational Leadership Final Project. All of my articles I'm going to take from the perspective of a reading specialist. Article number 1, A Pernicious Silence, Confronting Race in the Elementary Classroom. This is a Phi Delta Kappan article. The overview of the article basically was that teachers try very hard to create a community within their classroom. However, if we're not careful, we may be creating a community of silence if we're not addressing the issue of race. When teachers avoid the subject of race, they're sending a very strong negative message to their students. It talked about how avoidance equals silence. And when kids are silenced enough, they learn not to talk about race publicly. However, their questions don't go away, they just go unasked. Children need to make sense of the world and are naturally curious and need to know that their questions are welcomed. Honest acknowledgement of all children's experiences can liberate them and allow them to begin to trust that their questions will be allowed and answered. When this happens, a true community evolves and all kinds of learning can thrive within the classroom. Implications for the classroom: first and foremost, self-educate. The article provided lots of literature for teachers and parents to educate themselves about the issues of race and how to truly discuss them with children of all ages. The next thing, reflect. This has been kind of a trend throughout our class, reflecting on ourselves and our thoughts and looking deep within ourselves about our morals and our values. And this is no different. And then finally, plan. Don't just rely on the natural questions that are asked. Plan for questions. Be ready to respond to the children's questions when they happen. Set a tone of working and learning together. Based on our blogs and talking, it looks like a lot of us already try to create that respectful community. Read aloud books that will spark questions and discussion. The article also had lots of great read aloud books for children of all ages. I also made a personal connection to Dr. Brown's vulnerability speech. You have to take a really deep look at yourself and your views and values in order to be able to release it to the kids and make sure that you're discussing it in the classroom. I found this article, or this quote within the article, that I think is very fitting for our leadership class. Teachers can be role models of activism and concern. We should never forget the power of the roles we play in children's lives, for good or ill. So again, make sure that we are focusing and truly working towards discussing these issues in class. Article number 2, Boys in Reading, Is There Any Hope? This is a New York Times article by a young adult fiction writer who happens to be a man. The overview of this one was that boys used to lag behind girls in the early grades, but soon caught up, and now that's not the trend. So we need to work and really evaluate why. This article discussed standard reasons why boys aren't reading the good fiction books that are being published currently. Some of these included boys tend to gravitate towards nonfiction. Teachers focus on the classics within their classrooms. And also teachers struggle to find literature-rich fiction books for boys that interest them. Another deeper indication that I found was that boys tend to not have the role models within literacy. Typically, males see female teachers teaching literature, and they just don't have the strong male role models that help them understand that it's okay to relate and to really connect with the emotions that the characters have within a fiction book. Also, a deeper problem is the publication has now become a business, and 3/4 of the target audience for fiction authors are girls. And therefore, a lot of the books that are being written right now are leaning towards the girl population. Girls tend to read books about boys, however, boys don't typically read books with mainly female characters. Also, many of the books boys would like to read don't make it into their hands because they aren't taught in class, like I previously stated, with the classics being taught, or they're actually banned. The example that the author provided was the book titled Raiders Night. Implications for the classroom. The author stated boys need to be presented with books that about their fears, choices, possibilities, and relationships. So finding literature-rich books that they can connect to, where the characters are rich and the boys can truly engage in the literature. Be intentional about providing literature-rich books that have an edgy storyline that allows boys a private place to reflect on the inner fears or failure and humiliation that they try so hard to brush over. Provide opportunities for reflection and book talk over the book, validate their thoughts and responses, and above all else, start it early. Any of us that are the elementary teachers need to really be focusing and being intentional about finding those books for the young boys so that they develop that love of reading from an early age and we're not playing catch up. Article number 3, excellence without equity is neither. This is an Education Week article. There have been many efforts made to address gaps in opportunity and achievement for students with low achievement histories. However, there haven't been enough. This author talked about a trend in his school, like many others, that non-white and low-income students start in lower achieving classes to begin with. It's harder to get into the honor classes later for these students. In order to truly bridge the gap, students have to look deeply at 3 areas. The belief system, organizational structure, and instructional program. The author suggests that beliefs and behaviors interact and have to be addressed within the school. Schools need to analyze the roles of all their adults to ensure the success of all students and that they're providing equity for them all as well. Professional development needs to be ongoing and based on student needs. Expect more, get more. Again, that's been a trend within our class that we have to set those high expectations and model the way. Implications for the classroom. Tell each student you believe that they can succeed and mean it. Take it on as a leader that failure is not an option for any student. Define excellence and share those expectations for success with every student and adult within the school setting. Identify students and create a system of support to provide interventions. Literacy must be addressed in every classroom every day. The author states this because of the impact of teaching reading strategies and how it relates to all classes and not just reading. Constantly analyze and data from multiple evaluations of student understanding. Make sure that you are really focusing on where they are and where they need to be. Article 4, more teachers group students by ability. This is another Education Week article. This article addressed the controversy behind ability grouping and tracking students. A study done by Jeannie Oakes in 1985 suggested that ability grouping was discriminatory against minority students and those from poor families because they were put in lower level groups and therefore given lesser quality instruction. A different study from 2009 showed that more than 70% of teachers reported ability grouping in reading, and only 8% relied on whole group instruction as the main method of teaching reading. A study done in 2013, however, found that sorting students associated with higher academic achievement, not just for high-performing students, but for the struggling ones as well. A different study found that students in special education who were grouped separately from other students had a lower achievement. Implications for the classroom: if you are to group students, make sure that you're using multiple forms of evaluation, just like the last article stated. Do not look at demographic data, but achievement. Where are they? That way you know that you're not being discriminatory. Use a balance of instructional types, not just focusing on ability groups. Provide low achieving students with the same quality of instruction, just provide more modeling and support throughout. And it's imperative to provide special education students with opportunities to work with their peers and provide experiences they may lack. Article number 5, Literature Opens Doors for All Children, another Education Week article. This article addressed many social justice issues: special needs, low SES, diverse ethnicities, religion, lifestyles, etc., in relation to reading. Numerous studies show that students who are quote-unquote different face harassment and alienation. Inclusion literature can show that different students, they are not alone in the world, and encourage others to accept, not tease. Books that kids can relate to motivate them to read and learn. Studies have shown relevance between student achievement and motivation. When choosing books, they need to depict the characters in a realistic way without stereotypes. Children are able to create understanding and tolerance instead of ignorance this way. These texts can potentially increase understanding for self and others. Implications: start talking at a young age and continue them throughout. That's been a trend with all the articles, I felt like. Create an open forum for kids to ask questions about disabilities. And again, model the way. Provide a safe environment for them to do so. And educate yourself beforehand. Be sure to discuss the literature and really dive into the social justice issues presented in the book. You have to be intentional about finding these books. Provide books that depict students with disabilities working alongside their non-disabled peers with individuality and in leadership roles. It's important to know that all students can be successful and be leaders. And promote and honor identities of all students. Again, that's been a trend throughout. Offer books that students can identify with to promote that motivation to read. The overall thoughts from these articles was basically relating it back to our leadership class. Create a vision for all your students. Model the way and set an example. Identify the social justice issues within your school. Each school may differ slightly. Set the expectation that all students be high achievers and develop a plan to make that happen. Educate yourself on the issues and be deliberate about addressing them. Provide literature addressing the issues and discuss with your students. Make sure students can relate to it. And again, model the way, set the example, provide those opportunities as a leader, because kids are looking to you to be a role model. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed this.